Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Rich. All right, welcome to the first inking installment, the official one of the Render Like Wrightson. Said the title may be a little different, but okay. So what I did is, first things first. The previous video was kind of an introduction to what we were going to do on this, and I went over things that I think are important in the drawing to save me time because I'm on a very tight deadline and I didn't want to neglect this series. The easiest way to get more of the drawing down without having to spend a ton of time basically copying the pencils was to just do this. So I think this is good. It gets everything down. And again, I would highly recommend that you watch the drawing video because I discuss a lot of the techniques that Bernie, I believe, applied to his thought process on this. And he really does draw with ink. He doesn't draw this tight. But again, this is an inking demo, and kind of we're going to dissect some of the techniques used on the piece. So there you go. All right, so this is what it looks like inked. It's somewhere in the book. I'm not going to bother trying to find the exact page, but I mean, technically this is what it looks like inked too. It's just kind of a blue. I printed it a little darker than I would normally print my blue out, just so that it would show up on the camera a little better. And in terms of tools, this is 100-pound smooth Bristol board, probably a 2-ply. I'm using a Crow Quill, which is an Esterbrook 355, and my ink is Ultra Draw. So, is that what Wrightson used? No, probably not. I'm gonna actually, for different videos, I'm gonna use different tools, believe it or not. So today we're using the Esterbrook 355. Next installment, I might use something else. All right, so let's see how this goes. I'm gonna start up here, and like I said, I don't want to kind of regurgitate things I've already said, but one thing that you'll notice is Wrightson doesn't do contour lines, meaning he doesn't like take the pen and draw around this and indicate this shape. This shape is indicated by the lines next to it just ending. So all this dark area, it's just like hatching that ends here, essentially. So where normally, like if I was going to ink a comic book face, I might go in and, you know, kind of like outline a lot of this stuff. You really don't do that with this style. It's more based on lines. So I'm going to find some lines to start with. This is only going to be about a 10-minute video, so I'm putting a little bit of water on my nib just to kind of get it loosened up, and then I'm dipping it in ink right now just to get the flow. Let me get it kind of started there. Okay, so the DC paper, which I'm using for this, is not great. So unfortunately, sometimes great tools like these old nibs don't play as nicely with newer paper. I've talked about paper before while we're doing the demo. I can talk about it right now with y'alls. So with the environment and restrictions on paper and waste, meaning like when you make paper, there's industrial waste that comes with it, chemicals and stuff. They can't really make paper like they used to. They can't use the same supplies that they used to. So what you get now with paper tends to be more a mishmash of stuff, which is why it's not as sturdy and not as stable. This paper also doesn't seem to really have the true finish on it. They call a smooth paper a plate finish, and they put basically like a protective coat on it, and when it's good, that's really kind of what you're inking on. A Crow Quill essentially kind of tattoos the paper, which is great for if you're inking over pencil, because when you erase the page at the end, if you've done all Crow Quill, the lines really kind of stay into the paper. They've been basically like kind of tattooed into the paper. I'm gonna pay attention here for 1 second. Got a little paper on my nib I want to wipe off. Yeah, so, you know, unfortunately, it is really, really difficult to get great paper now. That's the thing that I always find is I can have great tools, but if the paper isn't so hot, you know, you kind of got a problem. I'm going to do this piece of hair too. So when I'm putting these lines down, I'm basically skating on the paper. What I mean by skating is I adjust the pressure that I'm putting down to make the line thinner or thicker. So most of the time if I'm outlining something, I'm going about as light as I can. I'm trying to barely have the nib touch the paper. And when I want a more varied line, something that maybe would mimic a brush stroke, then I'll sort of go thin and thick. And again, I'll have links to some videos that will help you with this process if you're new to my channel or if you haven't seen them. So definitely look in the description box, and I'll put a stack of links. I'm going to start color coding my videos too. I realized looking at the video uploads that although my thumbnails look more appealing now, it's starting to look a little like Skittles. And I think color coding the text, like the font on them, will really, really help make it easier to spot stuff. Like if you're a fan of Journey of 1,000 Miles or open that book, you'll know to look like for a specific color. So I may go back and do some of the old thumbnails. I don't know. That's a lot of work to do. Hundreds of them. So we'll see how many I do. But moving forward, I'll have it. So let's see what I got going on here. Looks a little darker in the viewfinder. I'm not sure what it's going to read like on the computer or your phone, but it looks good in person. Nothing's too heavy-handed right now, so we good. All right, let me make sure I'm in the frame. I do rotate the page quite a bit to get my angles down, but there are certain things that I won't ink upside down or sideways, faces being one of them, but this is just a hairline, so it's not like a huge deal. But yeah, I hope everyone's doing good. I explained yesterday in my Journey of 1,000 Miles video that I'm incredibly busy right now and on like super tight deadline with a book that I wouldn't call it filling in on, but in a way I kind of am. It's not like a regular title that I work on, but you know, I was asked to do a book and it's sort of kind of hit the ground in the red. So even though I just started it, it's already like late or just under, what do they call it, duress. So man, this is actually really fun. I did one recreation of a Bernie Wrightson piece many years ago, just kind of like fan art. I redrew. It's a guy kind of sitting. He's kind of got his hands over his knees and he's sitting in the pouring rain. But I actually redrew that whole piece in pencil, and then inked a version of it. And if I ever come across it, I'll post it up on my Patreon. You guys can check it out. I don't know where it is right now, but occasionally I come across it. Again, no, there's no connecting line around his shoulder blades and neck and all that. It's again, we're going to create that line with this. This is like pieces of hair that he's suggesting here. It's a really beautiful technique. Adam Hughes is one artist that comes to mind that I know dissolves lines quite a bit. Like he'll, also because he colors his stuff, but I mean his black and white line art, you'll see he does stuff like that where he indicates form with lines that kind of appear and disappear. And there's a little bit of stuff on this. Yeah, this is actually really fun. Now, I'm not doing this whole thing for the demo. In the previous video, I sort of show about where I'm going to go. But this will hit most of the techniques that Bernie uses on these pieces, and this will be a multi-video experience. There's no way to knock it out. And sorry, I'm trying to do autofocus here. Yeah, it's funny. It looks so dark on the camera. I'm telling you, like it's way more fine lines. We'll all see what it looks like on the computer screen, but yeah, so this will probably be at least 6 or 7 videos. And then what I thought I would do is I'm gonna swing the pendulum like the complete opposite way and do something really contemporary next. So we'll hit on something kind of classic and very traditional, and then I want to do something that's like way more 2019. We'll go past the year that we exist in. Try to find some new things. I wasn't paying attention. I started to do my regular technique that I would do. Kind of outline it and then fill it in, but I don't really need to. Bernie's hand, in terms of like the way that he lays down lines, like I've been sort of conditioned to do stuff very neat because it's sort of like how people want inks most of the time now. So it's interesting doing a more drawn line because it's more organic and has like a little bit of a waver to it, and if you went in and did all of this stuff really slick, it wouldn't really have the feel of this, you know. So even little things like the paper tearing a little bit, which it's melting under this quill, all actually kind of will benefit that, I think. This paper is so bad. Oh man, it's frustrating too because I'll ink pieces for work and like you work so hard on them, and at the end it's just lesser because the paper is so mushy. But that's the way it is. I'm definitely, my summer goal is to, I've been buying tons of like pen nibs and stuff like that over the last couple months, but the next thing is I'm gonna just try tons of paper until I find a perfect match for what I want. But yeah, so you just want to kind of work through this stuff very carefully in an order to some extent. There's definitely times where I hop around on pieces. But something like this, I'm just going to kind of work through in pieces. There's a slight variation to the lines that I'm putting down right now. Like I start them a little heavier and then flick them a little thinner. I don't know if the camera is totally picking that up, but like here I'm going thin to thick, thin to thick, and then there's these little thinner lines that are coming up here to indicate the form rising back up. And then he's got a little set of lines right here that are sort of their own form. It's like a plane, and then it rises back up. He does that quite a bit. Bernie's really good at drawing form and indicating form, and you can see that in his comic art too. If you look at like Bernie Wrightson A Look Back, I did open that book of it. You can find in my gallery. I'll link to it in my description. And I think I also did open that book for Frankenstein. Now I think I did. I don't remember. But yeah, he's really good at indicating form. Okay, so let me get, it starts to get heavier. I'm gonna make sure that I get this stuff. Those little batches of like darker work that are in here. And you'll see like the ends of these lines all end at different spots, and you know, if you really kind of focus in on just a little section, it'll look more chaotic than you might imagine. But what happens is ultimately when you do a big area and there's all this detail everywhere, it all of a sudden starts to kind of like, it becomes its own language and it works. Yeah, sometimes if you just look at like a little bit of it, it can look like, you know, out of context and not like it's as seamless as it could be. And again, it's tempting to want to outline this, but odds are he probably approached it like that. What time are we at? 14. Oh man, I've already gone over what I said I was going to do. Alright, I'll do like just a couple more minutes. But I mean, you could see like how time consuming this would be. So it's 14 minutes. Because people, you know, they'll generally ask, how long did that piece take? Or how long does it take to do that? The best answer is it took as long as it took. Now, it's hard to keep track because it's not like when you're doing it, even if you have really good intentions of keeping track of time, I mean, it's like most artists at the end of the session will space out and not really remember. And it's like, oh, I sat down at 8 and at 9:30 I was checking email, or, you know, looking for a movie on Netflix to put on in the background, whatever it is. This is the collarbone in here, so there's a little bit of a shadow here. And he shows the form kind of draping over, so it kind of goes like this. There's an indicated form that goes all the way through here. Well, actually, I'll throw these this way. But I think you can imagine now, just seeing just this little bit that took 16 and a half minutes. So this might take an hour, an hour, an hour, an hour, an hour. And you're looking at probably 12 hours worth of work just to do this section here, which is why I'm not going to ink all this stuff, you know, and then, you know, basically, like, about a square inch will take an hour if you fill it completely with detail. That's what I found on my black drawings is, yeah, square inch is about an hour. So if you want to know how long it takes, just measure the square inches that are filled up with detail. And then also the dimensions of the original piece can affect it too, because I've done a few pieces oversized, and they took way longer. I had one piece take almost 200 hours is what I guesstimated it at. That's pretty gnarly. I'm going a little heavier here. He's got a bit of a cast shadow, and the lines kind of are creating a little bit of a It's hard to tell if he did this on its own or if he pulled them up. I'm just going to lay in where I see the darker areas, and then I'll go and do the wrapping lines later, probably in the next video. Okay, I'm gonna call it there. But anyway, so we're moving through stuff. Again, it reads a bit darker on the phone than it is in person. But yeah, so far it's looking okay. Again, it'll look way better once we have more done. It's deceiving at this point, the quality of it, honestly. But I haven't done anything that I feel I've like screwed up. So I just have to trust my instincts based on past experience with this kind of thing, and know that when more and more stuff goes down, it will all start to really fit. It could be the blue line or whatever. But all right, smash the like, check out the Patreon. Definitely look in the description box below for links to you know, videos that will sort of correspond with this. And then I probably won't be back Thursday, but I'll be back Sunday with a Open That Book / Super Fun Sunday. Okay, all right. And then next Tuesday I will have another installment of this. It'll drag out, unfortunately, but I mean, it is kind of the best way to do it, and it'll give people time to sort of, you know, whatever, live their lives, to try some of the techniques. All right, thanks. I'll talk to you all later. Bye.